Believe it or not, at one point in time it was actually quite common to hear this sound across many of northern Mexico's grasslands. This sound could not have been replicated by no man, but instead was actually created by a beast many people feared, that being the Mexican grizzly bear. Even though these fluffy giants were declared extinct in the 1960s, evidence suggests that they lived at least until the 1980s. And believe it or not, there's actually a really good chance these bears still exist in modern day. So right now we're going to look over the evidence and determine once and for all, is the Mexican grizzly bear truly extinct, or is this once great symbol of northern Mexico still alive? Let's find out. So for starters, what exactly is a Mexican grizzly bear? And why did their populations decline so much, so rapidly in the first place? Well, for starters, the Mexican grizzly bear was a true brown bear, with it being its own distinct subspecies, separate from the California grizzly bear, which has also been declared extinct, and the many different brown bear subspecies found up north. Unlike its northern cousins, the Mexican grizzly bear inhabited much warmer climates, so it likely never hibernated as a result. Additionally, due to the drier habitat which they inhabited, they likely would have preyed a lot more upon terrestrial prey, and they also likely would have fed upon more grasses compared to their northern counterparts. This is because the mountainous regions and the prairies of both northern Mexico and the southwestern United States simply didn't have the same sort of food sources available, leading to these bears having a much more carnivorous diet, which put them into direct conflict with us. As European settlers began to colonize the southwestern portion of the United States and northwestern Mexico, they began to come into conflict with all sorts of creatures, ranging from jaguars to the Mexican wolf, and even pumas and the Mexican grizzly. Each one of these top predators were considered pests, as they would regularly try to steal livestock from the many farmers and ranchers that began to call these creatures' territories home. This inevitably led to each and every one of these apex predators being hunted to near extinction, with the brown bear suffering by far the worst fate. As brown bears are large, slow, primarily diurnal creatures, they were the easiest to hunt and had by far the largest bounties placed on them. Because of this, they were hunted to the brink of extinction, with the last Mexican grizzly bear in the United States dying in the 1930s, with its corpse being paraded around as if somebody just slayed a dragon. And the last Mexican grizzly bear killed in Mexico was in 1964, or was it? Because you see, the Mexican grizzly bear is one of the only animals that has been declared extinct twice. Now this is the part where the Mexican grizzly bear's story starts to diverge from its Californian grizzly bear counterpart and many of the other extinct animals I've talked about on this channel so far. Despite being declared extinct in 1964, another individual was actually shot and killed in 1976, with evidence being verified by a scientist many years later, as the skull of the Mexican grizzly bear that was killed not just had DNA confirming that it was a Mexican grizzly bear, but the analysis of the skull suggested that it very likely was killed sometime in the 1970s. On top of both of these things, the skull was from a juvenile, suggesting that its siblings might have still been around when it was shot. Because of this incident, an expedition was set where a bunch of scientists actually ended up exploring the surrounding areas where the bear was killed back in 1976, only 3 years after the event. The results from this expedition are quite fascinating, to say the least, even though the scientists failed to come back with absolute proof that the Mexican grizzly bear was still alive. Regardless, multiple scientists on the expedition did claim to have spotted 2 Mexican grizzlies off in the distance during their expedition. But even more fascinatingly, they also claimed to have seen scratching posts, footprints, and even bear fur, matching the descriptions of what would have been left behind by a Mexican grizzly. Still, none of this evidence was enough to get the Mexican grizzly bear off the extinct species list, and as of right now, the Mexican grizzly bear is considered to have gone extinct back in 1976. Yet again, sightings of these giant apex predators didn't just persist into the 80s and 90s, but even still occur today. Despite them officially having gone extinct about 50 years ago, many ranchers and farmers still claim in some of the most remote parts of the Mexican mountains that grizzly bears are responsible for regularly taking out their cattle. On top of this, grizzly bears have been reported deep in the Sierra Madre Mountains by plenty of hikers in the past and still in the present today. So really, what is going on here? Is the Mexican grizzly bear still alive, or did it really go extinct back in the 1970s? Well, with so many reports coming in and the fact that they very well could have existed deep into the 1980s and even the 90s, I'd still say it's more than possible that they're still around today. But when it comes to most modern day sightings, we have to consider another creature, one which actually does resemble the Mexican grizzly bear to some degree. Believe it or not, Mexico's actually home to another species of bear, one which is still around today, that being the Mexican black bear. While you'd think they'd be pretty easy to tell apart by a quick glance, most western black bear populations also have a cinnamon morph, which just so happens to be a very similar brown color to the average grizzly bear. On top of this, while female and juvenile black bears can be told apart from a grizzly bear very easily as they are much more thin and have an overall more slender build, male black bears can often be just as stocky as brown bears, which can make identifying them a bit of a challenge from a distance. Also, even though it is much less common, black bears will also take out cattle when the opportunity presents itself. So really, are people seeing these Mexican grizzly bears in the flesh, or are they simply just mistaking Mexican grizzlies for Mexico's rebounding black bear population? Well, you see, one thing which has almost never been reported since the 1980s are sightings of bears with a silvery color. I bring this up because the Mexican grizzly bear actually had another nickname, the silver bear, because of its silvery tint, which is unique to that of any other bear species outside of other grizzlies. You'd think if this bear was still alive, at least a few of their sightings would mention this detail. Yet most sightings as of right now lack any sort of mentioning of the bear's silvery color. Additionally, so far no DNA evidence or trail cam footage of these giant bears has been reported and confirmed so far past 1976. Plus, despite how few people dare to enter the Sierra Madre Mountains, there's still a handful of individuals that regularly put on camera traps in some of the most remote parts of these mountains, where they end up filming tons of different apex predators, yet so far none of these individuals have been able to record a single verified grizzly bear. To think, if we could record Mexico's jaguars and pumas, both way more cryptic animals than the brown bear in the Sierra Madre Mountains, then why can't we find these grizzlies? Maybe, tragically, that is because they really are extinct. But with them once occupying such a large territory, really anything is possible, and plenty of animals have been rediscovered in the past. So if the Mexican grizzly has been rediscovered before, then what's to say it can't be rediscovered again? Still, not every sky island, let alone mountaintop, of Mexico's wilderness has been explored. So what's to say there isn't at least one Mexican brown bear still around hiding from humanity? Large mammals overall are really good at hiding from people, so what's to say the Mexican grizzly bear hasn't learned how to do the same? Now, if you enjoyed learning about these fuzzy 500-pound giants like I did, then please feel free to like and subscribe, because I try to make animal mini documentaries every single week, all for you guys. Plus, this is my main source of income, so please do anything you can to support the channel. Now, hopefully I'll see you real soon. Goodbye.